knowledge and powers of your regular podcast. As always, with you is me, Kat. 안녕하세요. Then we have Baruch.
Hello.
We have Collage.
Dobre rano, good morning. Hello, everyone.
And today we have two special guests from a YouTube channel called Tokyo Bottoms. And we have Andrew.
Hello.
And we have Meng.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here.
Hello, guys. So as maybe our listeners don't know you, so could you please sort of briefly introduce yourself? And just for the listeners or our viewers, also, these two people are now based in Japan. So we have a nice time zone difference between us and these two guys. So let's start with Andrew. Can you introduce yourself? Also say where you're from?
Okay. Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm from Canada. I'm from a city called Victoria, which is somewhat close to Vancouver and Seattle. I've lived in Japan on and off for about 10 years. I came here initially as a student and now I work here.
And it's Meng's time.
Wait, we are here more than 10 years because 3 years ago you're saying like 10 years, but right now it should be like 12 years.
My 10th now. I think this is my 10th now. I've added it up.
Is this the real 10th year? Okay, sure.
I think it's really the 10th year.
Okay. So hi everyone, my name is Meng. I'm originally from China. I went to America for high school and university. So after graduating from American University, I always wanted to come to Japan because I loved anime and pop culture in Japan. So I came here to work, and we started the YouTube channel 2 years ago together. The channel name, official name, we call it Tokyo BTM instead of Tokyo Bottoms. I know that lots of people think it's Tokyo Bottoms, but it is short. Yes, it is short form for bottoms, but that's just our preferred way to say it, Tokyo BTM. Yeah, okay. It's okay. And I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. It's I don't want to open that up because I already have some other questions. Okay. But I was talking with Andrew, like, what do I want to import to Japan?
My question for you guys for the beginning would be, why should people watch your channel? Like, can you promote it a little bit?
If you like it, just watch it. If you don't like it, don't watch it. It's fine. Andrew, you can do better. Let's go. A more serious version.
I think our channel is a really good blend. It's edutainment. Mm-hmm. We don't know everything, but we know some things. We're not overly entertaining, but we're slightly entertaining. So it's that it's that mix, I think, of presenting some ideas for you and some insight into the day-to-day lives of two gay guys living in Japan, also doing gay things. I think you are going to come out learning some things and just having some fun with us the whole time as well. So I think if you're interested in Japan and you're interested in how LGBTQI life is in Japan, from a foreigner perspective, I think that our channel is something you would really enjoy.
Andrew, why Japan for you?
For me, ever since I was a kid, I was really interested in Japanese culture. I started playing video games when I was quite young, got into a lot of RPGs, and then through that, I was able to sort of get in contact with games that weren't released in Canada. So I remember I had a friend, for instance, who his father would go to Hong Kong and get Japanese games, bring them back, and he would have a converter and we would play them and I wouldn't know what was going on, but we would be having fun. So I was exposed to that. After I did judo with my brother did judo. And so I kind of followed in his footsteps. I joined the judo club. Around that time, I started being exposed to anime and stuff. So similar to Meng, that sort of what they call otaku culture kind of got into me when I was a kid. And then when I came, I did Japanese class in high school, which was kind of rare, I think, at the time for Canada. And then I had my first exchange here in high school. And once I came here, I was just in love with the country and I've been in love ever since.
Oh. and Meng, for you, besides of loving Japan?
I think it's very similar because actually, people probably don't know that in China back in the 90s and early 20s, Japan was very, very popular, very strong, in the pop culture world as well. For example, like Naruto and like Pokemon, everyone watched those. So I was, strongly influenced by those pop culture from Japan. That's my kind of like first touch with Japanese connection. And later on, I also had a very short exchange program around like 4 months in Tokyo. I just loved Tokyo, and also the guys here are hot. Okay, let's be honest with it. And like that's one of the reasons I came here, just to hunt for Japanese men as well. Yeah.
Now I don't know, Baruch, you were in Japan. Are the guys hot?
And they are one of the hottest guys in the world, I think, in my opinion. Yeah.
I think there's something about it. Yeah.
They have this aura around them that I've seen nowhere else.
But I'm afraid the aura is gone. I feel like Korea is hotter right now. Like I wanted to go to Korea. Yeah. Anyway.
Baruch, even my kind of hot?
I don't think it would be your type.
Okay.
Kat, sorry. Yeah, it's more.
Wait, Kat, what's your type? Just wondering.
I am like the Norwegian Viking types, like the big guys.
And bold, like Jason Statham.
Daddies.
Bears. Daddy bears.
Daddy bears.
My husband is almost 2 meters tall, so it's like...
Wow. I don't think you'll find tall people here.
Yeah, but unfortunately he lost lots of weight. So I married a chubby guy and he lost weight. So I'm sad. So yeah, that happens. Okay, next question. So both of you are from totally different cultures that you grew up. And at least for us in Europe, the way we understand Japan is very conservative country. Now, I watched almost all of your videos, okay? So it's sort of, for me, it looks like there are two different kind of worlds living at the same time. One is what they present in outside and then what's happening inside. But how did you cope with the culture difference? Or let me rephrase the question. Did you even have to cope with the culture difference?
Yeah, what would be the differences between your culture and Japanese culture?
I mean, one thing that, as you said, there's a split between the public persona or stage and what's behind, in not necessarily in the shadows, but for lack of a better word, in the shadows. I think from a Western point of view and like a North American point of view, we like to be the person we think we are kind of as much as possible. Obviously, that's not possible all the time, but there's that sort of thing of always being, yourself or something like that. Whereas I find in Japan, they're okay. Of course, not everyone splits, but culturally people are okay with having a public self and a private self. So there were times, of course, where I've run into, speaking of, hot Japanese guys or something like that, if we're dating and stuff like that, that's something that comes into conflict at times, or it has, not always, in that perhaps me wanting to have our relationship sort of out and about, PDA or something like that, or just to talk about things that I would normally talk about. And then the guys are like, we can't talk about that, or we can't show that. So I think that's one thing, and how to deal with it is just one day at a time. I mean, I have to understand that it's a different culture, and the way that it works here, there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just different. There are times when I have to just decide what my priorities are, I guess, what I value. There is no right, no wrong, but there are things that ways I want to live my life. And that's how I have to kind of structure it, if that makes sense.
And before we go to Meng, like when Baruch was in Japan, she shared with us, at least for me, very strange experience. And that for her being white, and she was also with another two of the friends, and they entered a tram and the people sort of ran away from them.
That was in Hiroshima, just to be clear. So that was a little bit different from Tokyo. Yeah.
I mean, yes.
It's a story we hear.
Yeah.
And it's a story, I mean, obviously I've had happen to me. I've seen it around as well. Like we hear it from our friends. Some people will sit down in a seat and people will move away. It is true that I think people are more used to foreigners in Tokyo, so it's not so common. But I think, yeah, smaller, I mean, Hiroshima is still huge, but I mean, in comparison to Tokyo, smaller cities, there are going to be people who are just not as aware of foreigners. It can go the opposite way too. You know, I had people when I was younger, people grabbing my arm hair because they thought it was so strange that I had like brownish, blondish arm hair. And I was also scarier than the typical Japanese person on my, you know, arm, right? So people who, you know, in their teen, I was in my early 20s. So like around the same area, just like, you know, pulling my, oh my God, look at this. So there's just at times, not everywhere, and more so outside of Tokyo, but there are times when people are just, they don't see foreigners so often. And it's a reaction.
So it's not really like that they want to be discriminative. It's more like a fear of the unknown, like they never met the person or...
I think it's a mix of a lot of things, right? They can be ignorance. They can be scared sometimes. They can have like a misconcept of what foreigner is. Obviously, they're not gonna avoid a pretty, you know, super like a person, but like sometimes they avoid, like sometimes certain people that a bigger body type, and it can be scary, and sometimes they just want to avoid conflicts. I feel like it's not only one thing, and I want to be very honest, like it's not only Japan, right? I came from China, I went to America to study, and there were people wanted to touch my hair because they have never seen Asian people before, and they will be like, yeah, like, can I touch your hair? It's a different texture. Why your hair is so straight? So like, it's not only a Japan story, but you know, ignorance happens everywhere if people only live in their small world. So, but in Japan, we definitely heard many stories like that. There's tons of YouTube videos talking about why Japanese people, they don't want to sit next to foreigners on the train. So yeah, I can definitely, you know, understand what's happening. But I would say it would be weird for Caucasian people, white people, because in your world, you know, like nobody avoids you, but somehow I feel Japan is probably the only place that people dodging white people in a way. You know what? Yeah.
We also have things like, I think we talked about this recently in a YouTube video. And I think one of the comments came about that someone was saying that Japanese people can get afraid that they might be spoken to in English. And if they are not confident in English, they might just remove themselves from the situation. It was just there are so many possibilities to this, you know, answers to this question. And when I saw that comment, I was like, oh, I could see that, because foreigners do tend to the ones that we see here, barge in and just speak English constantly, you know what I mean? And so that can create a situation where maybe people are like, oh, I don't want to be spoken to. I don't want to be speaking English, this and that. I don't know if this person speaks Japanese. Let's just move. And, you know, when that comment came about, I was thinking, oh yeah, that's a sort of probably something that people don't think. They think, oh, you're afraid of me, which is possible, or you're being, you know, you have prejudice, which is also possible, but it could also just be something to do with that person's, you know, like, as Meng said, like fears in that way, you know.
And Meng, for you as being Asian, do you have similar experience as Andrew or different one from the culture aspect?
I definitely have a very different experience to Andrew, but I think came to Japan, I almost forget about it because, of course, after living here for so many years, I don't realize, you know, a culture shock from day to day anymore because I'm so used to it. But when I remember when I first came to Japan, even though Japan is China's neighbor, right? There are so many cultural similarities and we share many same values as well. But I had a bigger culture shock compared to my first time went to America. You know, moving from China to America and came to Japan, I actually had a bigger culture shock compared to going to America. I don't remember exactly why, but Japan always feel like a very weird space. It's quirky, it's different. The culture is very reserved as well. People are not very upfront. I think Chinese people, there's something, very similar between Chinese people and American people. We're very blunt. We're kind of like very upfront. Like we talk very directly. But Japanese people are just so very indirect. Even though they hate you, they will not show to your face. You know what I mean? But they're, and also like, they're driving on a different lane. Like we, in China, America, we drive on the left side, but in Japan, they go on the right side. Maybe it's not weird for British people or some European countries, but it was weird to me. And also like when people walk on escalators, they go on the opposite side as well. So it was really different and everything was so new and unique to me when I first arrived here, I remember. But how do I deal with it, from like now as a foreigner living in Japan? I would say I'm still having a lot of problem making Japanese friends. If you ask me how many Japanese friends I have lots of friendly Japanese people around me, like my colleagues, they're very friendly. But are we friends? Are we able to talk about personal lives and share my troubles with them? Not really. Like there's a barrier, there's a wall still there. Privately, I'm still having problem, making friends with Japanese gay people. My community is majority, foreigners. Like me and Andrew, we're in the same group. Maybe I have my little small groups that he's not in, but basically, all Japanese people with like a, study abroad experience where they're like actually grew up, in a foreign country. So it's very hard to break the wall into kind of like the real, I don't want to use the word authentic, but kind of like the pure Japan, kind of like they're in their own world. It's hard for a foreigner to mix it in and also like to break into their society. That's my opinion.
How does this work in work environment? Like, do you feel like you need to try harder, or like, can you tell us a little bit more about your daily job? Like, how do you work for a foreign company or Japanese one?
I will let Andrew go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
So I work for a Japanese company, but it's very international. How do I explain this? Day to day, I think probably similar to Meng, like I get along with my work colleagues. There's no issue. I remember, for instance, the woman who trained me when I got into the company, we went to lunch every day for 2 years until I switched departments and stuff like that. And yet, so we had this friendship and we would talk about things and kind of have that casual thing, but it never went outside of work ever. So there was sort of like this is work. It's about, I think it's again, separating these parts of your life. It's very interesting. I think if you ask a Japanese person, if you're with your high school friends and you're like, let's go hang out with your work friends or your college friends, they will be very reluctant to do it. They don't like mixing. They have pockets everywhere. So work was my one pocket. And I had friends there, but the only friends that actually I started hanging out with outside of work were foreigners. And then there were some people who they're Japanese, but most of their life was spent in the States or abroad. Mm-hmm. Those colleagues were, I think, more Western than they were Japanese. And they would invite me out after work or something like that. We would go out. But the born in Japan, raised in Japan Japanese, it would be stuck. It would be contained to work.
Actually, this reminds me when way back when corporation came to Slovakia, and every time any foreigner from that corporation came here, and our managers were mostly foreigners, and they were telling us, take them out, take them for dinner, and most of the Slovaks were like, no, my work finished 5 p.m. and leave me alone. And they didn't understand the concept until then you became one of those that started to travel for business trip. And then you realized how lonely you feel in that foreign country. And if your own colleagues will not take you out, you will just not get anything out of it. And slowly we learned, like, as soon as a foreigner came, it's like, I'll take care of you and we prepare program for you, because I know how lonely it feels. And it was the same for me when I came to Dalian in China. Not only no one speaks English, it was only Chinese. I couldn't speak a word in Chinese. And if my colleagues would not take care of me, I would be just hotel and company, very lonely. But thanks to the colleagues, I just appreciate the culture, the people and everything. So
it's interesting because in Japan, there's a system, I guess it's a cultural thing where people will go out after work to drink.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Meng, what do you think about that? I don't think it's the same as making friends. I feel like it's just another company thing you have to do, commitment. And you're going out and you're drinking, you're getting to know people, sure enough, but it's almost like an extension of work. Mm. I don't feel it's the same as when I worked in other countries and we would get off work and go do something. There's always someone there who's going to pay for everything. There's always some sort of, you're still wondering where you're sitting. Like it's not as free and flexible, I find. So it's weird because we do have these things here in place, but somehow, for me at least, my opinion, like I feel like it's just an extension of the workday as opposed to going out with friends.
Ah. No, we take it as friends. Like after work, it's just friends.
Yeah, I think it can be different from, different company, different culture as well. I do know some of my friends, they love drinking with their colleagues after job, after a whole long day of work. They truly just genuinely enjoying it. So I think there's a cases like Andrew, it's just more like an extension of work, and you have to serve and you have to subordinate, you have to say something to impress your boss or something like that. But at the same time, they're like drinking people. Actually, in Japanese society, drinking is big. Like a lot of people actually love drinking. So a lot of people actually do think it's a kind of like a relaxation. They just like trying to connect with their colleagues, because for them, because I talk to many Japanese people, they also find making friends in their work age is very different from being a student. And so it's not only a foreigner problem. I think it's more like an age thing, because Japanese people do tend to treat work very seriously as well. It's not very fun. Like I never talk about gossip at work. My image of working is always like, hey girl, like what's your last day, kind of like talking at the same time working. But Japanese people don't, like their office quiet as hell. Nobody's talking shit, like nobody's talking anything. Sorry, just kidding. Nobody's talking anything. Like it's really quiet environment. I wouldn't say like some people are slacking. They're not like really focused on at work, but they will be with, keep it to themselves. They don't share with other people. They don't slack with other people. So that's kind of very interesting.
Here is really about authenticity. People just want to be themselves. And three of us, we coming from an IT department, so mostly developers, huge geeks, etc. So if it wouldn't be about us, come on, if it wouldn't be about us and being free, then oh my gosh. But I remember when I came to Dalian office, and hierarchy there was a strong, and their center lead was sitting with them in the open space, and I'm like a tsunami, so wherever I came, it's like, oh my god. So I came there and I was like, Bill, how come you're sitting here? Go home, or let's go for dinner.
That's the manager she's talking about, the manager of the whole department.
The big boss, yeah, the big boss. And I'm like, how come you're, let's go for dinner. Poor guys, they need to stay here. What's wrong with you? And you could see the faces coming outside of those.
Partitions.
Yeah, they're like, oh my god, how can she talk to him like this? And then he just, put this huge laughter on me, give me a hug. I'm like, come on, man, let's just go, because poor people. And then they were still writing me, thank you, Kate, thank you so much. How can you do this? I'm like, I'm just being myself. And fair enough, I do not respect hierarchy. I'm just too old for shit like that. So I respect people, but not hierarchy.
That's one thing I think to be aware of, I guess, in Japan. Of course, this is not every company. But it does happen in some companies. It did happen in mine, where people stare at you if you leave before them. They give you like a, stink eye, like how dare you leave on time? or at this certain time or before this person who is technically your superior. I think that the work culture is changing a lot. I've felt it changed in the last couple of years, and I hope it keeps on changing. But there is very much a level of hierarchy. Thankfully, in my company, it's not terrible, but in the really bad ones, like they refer to people by their job title, like Mr. President. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that is, to me, it sounds almost very army-like, you know, coming from a North American point of view. And it can be, they even have a lot of words for it surrounding the hierarchy system in that way. Yeah.
Now, both of you doing lots of activism, at least from my point of view, it's an activism about the LGBTI community. Can you both be yourselves at your companies? Did you have to come out, or did you do come out? Do they know about you?
Because I'm working at an American company right now. So there are lots of like LGBT, kind of like, we have a group called, I can't mention the group name, but yes, we have LGBT support group. We have like, monthly meeting and just always in the company promoting equal rights, same-sex marriage. We're having those kind of topics. So right now, my work in terms of my sexuality, I think I have, yay. That's so super cute. Is it your company's kind of like, yeah, okay, yeah, we have like the similar version of it. So yes, I'm a very active member in the group as well. So I think in my company right now, I'm 100% free, being very open. Like I talk to everyone. I'm on the face of the cover saying I'm a gay person, and they want to use me to hire more people, like we have gay people work here. So but before I was working in a more conservative Japanese company, but also I didn't feel pressure that I couldn't come out or anything. Maybe I'm just like, don't give a shit about anything anymore. I just want to be myself. So it's just me, but people around me, that there are lots of hidden gay, even in my American company as well. Like right now, it's even though we have all the equal rights, all the support group, but there are so many Japanese gay people just prefer not to come out. I would say like not more than half, 90%, in my opinion.
Wow.
Yeah, regardless it's Japanese company or American company. But for me, I say if it's your preference, like you want to come out, people also don't care. They actually don't care about you, so I don't think there's gonna be any violence, any like rolling eyes. But I do have heard incidents from my Japanese friends, my only few Japanese friends, they were saying like, oh, I came out at my workplace, but my boss will be like, oh, kind of ask like, what kind of guy do you like? So it becomes kind of like a harassment, but they don't realize it's a harassment because they're very ignorant on the issue. So I would say for me personally right now, I'm very comfortable regardless what kind of environment, a Japanese company or American company in Japan. I just prefer to, to come out on day one because it's much easier for me. But some people may still feel pressured and restricted to come out in Japan.
And from, let's say, performance point of view, if you can compare when you are out versus when you are not out, is it more liberating to be yourself and then you only focus on the work, or does it influence somehow your performance?
100%. I feel like coming out is such a big thing to me because in my actually very first job, I was in a Japanese company as well, even though it was in America. But there are lots of questions, when I get close to my colleagues, they will be like, so what kind of girls do you like? And like, those questions doesn't sound anything, but I have to lie for it if I choose to not come out. And day by day, and you have to make more lies. It's very tiring, And I just want to, shut up. Like I like guys. Don't ask me about girls anymore. Like it's really, I did everything just for myself, and I just so fed up of have to make lies and not being myself. So was kind of my intention. Yeah, Andrew, what do you think?
Well, I was going to say as well, I don't think you introduced your company, Meng. Well, like not the name, but I'm saying like I talked about the company. I don't think you did.
So I work in an American news technology financial company. It's very well known, but it's very big.
So for me, So I've been in two departments since I came to Japan in this company, and the first one I was fully out, but it was never really talked about. Not in a bad way. I'm just saying, just we never talked about it. I think it's yes, you do get asked occasionally, like what girls or something or what people you're interested in. But I think compared to other companies I've been in, because I worked in England and I've worked in Canada, I think what's very common in like those countries is on Monday morning, you sit down and your colleagues are like, what did you get up to on the weekend? There's much more, there are many more questions that go deeper into your private life. And, you know, it'd be like, oh, I went to this and I went to this bar and I went on a date or something like that. It gives you an opportunity to talk about your life. No one ever asked me this on a Monday morning in Japan. What did you do on the weekend? What if it's very surface level. So yes, you might get especially if you're out maybe drinking with them at these like required like drinking dates or whatever with the company. But like in the actual from day to day, I don't get asked that much. And I think that's part of it is just kind of like we're at work. We're not really talking about private stuff. Private is also separate. But it was also important for me to be out. And when I was in my first department, I was fully out. When I got to my second department, I decided just to kind of come out as going like one by one. So when people would start talking to me and this and that, or we'd go out for, again, like when we had these drinking things after work and the questions would come up, I'd answer it at that time. And it's been fine. I also have connected with other people who are in my department who have left, who I found out later were gay. And they were always saying it was never an issue. These Japanese people, they were out and it was fine. But as Meng said, a lot of Japanese people are still in the closet. So it's like, I'll open the like Grinder apps or something like that at work, and I'll be like, oh, my colleagues, like they're all over, and you know, that I can like mail them and be like, what is this, you know? And they'll be like, shh, let's not talk about it.
What you described now, it was everything happened in Japan. You described Japan. Have you ever worked in Canada?
Yeah, so I worked in Canada and I've worked in England. And if I were to compare the differences, for instance, when I was in England, people would ask me like about my weekend, and I would be very honest, like, oh, I went on a date, and they'd be like, how was it? Are you going to see him again? I remember specifically being asked out for drinks a bunch of times, but I remember the first time my colleagues asked me, oh, hey, Andrew, you want to go for a drink? And I said, well, actually, I'm about to go out to the gay area. And I figured that would be the end of it. They would be like, okay, have fun, bye, right? That was what I expected. But they were like, can we come? A bunch of them came down with me to the gay area, and we were drinking for like all night. It was a lot of fun. And I'd say 90% of the people who came were straight. And I just don't feel that here. I'm not saying it's impossible because we're not talking about it. I'm just saying we're not talking about it. And it's not being asked. When I come into work on a Monday morning, it's just like, hi, look forward to working with you for the rest of the week, sort of thing. You know, it just doesn't go in there. And I'm not about to sit down and offer up like all this stuff because it's not the environment for that, I guess. But who knows, maybe if I did say, hey, I went out to the gay area, maybe they would want to come. We're just not having these conversations.
Is that one of the reasons why you started your YouTube channel?
You mean is because we are lonely that we don't have friends? That's why we started this YouTube channel. Yes, it is.
What was actually behind it? Like, did you just wake up one morning and it was like, oh, let's make a channel?
No, it was not a coincidence. I would say both Andrew and I were very interested in media, and we probably wanted to have a YouTube channel, a successful YouTube channel, you know, as a dream or as a, you know, like a goal, like somewhere in our heart. It's always like, I wanted to be a social media personality, you know, like these days, the Gen Z always like want to be a TikTok star. It's the same thing, you know, like I see other people on the shiny screen, like they're doing they can be themselves, right? So there's always part of me wanting to put myself outside to the world, but lacking the confidence and lacking the skills and lacking a partner. So me and Andrew, we were very, very close. So we had some drama happen between our friends groups, and we were just like together and gossiping and kikiing. And then I think he was kind of like, I really wanted to have a channel, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, let's just do it. And we were, in quarantine, nothing better to do. There aren't any gay lives anymore. So I was like, why don't we just do it? And why don't we just put out some videos? Let's really do it. Like, we have a camera. And then started like little by little, and we doing like upgrade on the sound, on the editing, and it came to the picture these days. So I think the seed is always there, but we just lack kind of like the water, the sunlight, and the earth to make a forest. Yeah.
And I think like to add on to that, there was an element where, Kat, you were talking about before your image of Japan being like very conservative and and in a way it is very much. But as you'll probably see from our videos, things are happening. Like there is a scene, there are things going on, and I always felt like that would be really something to talk about, because there is this image that like, oh no, this would not happen. And so there was something about that as well, where Meng and I have been here long enough to know the culture and been part of the community long enough to know about the community. So I felt like we had things that we could talk about simultaneously, while trying to build a channel and a social media presence. So I think that helped, I think, the trajectory of the channel too.
I think that's more Andrew. I just want to be a star. I just want to put myself out there. To be honest, like day-to-day work, like it becomes repetitive. It's boring, right? There's something missing in my life. And I think this YouTube channel, although it's so tiring, I need to spend so much time after work. Like I barely rest. Andrew does the same thing. But, there's just a fire inside of us that we wanted to happen, wanted to be successful. That's why we put so much energy and time crafting those content week by week. It's very tough, but I think that's something I really enjoy. And whenever I receive very good feedback from friends, from people I don't know, right now, I got so many Instagram DMs and saying that, people like our content, it's helping people. So I feel it really, filled my black hole. Not the black hole behind, but like the black hole here.
Similar to me, I wanted to have a podcast, and then I tag along these two people. I'm like, guys, right? I want to do podcasting. And then it's like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, well, we have lots of education. Let's share. And but I want to go back what I just said. Spoke with Andrew, and first of all, Andrew, thank you so much. I never expected you would ever reply to me, because as soon as you find someone on social media, and it's very rare that they would reply. So since then, I just start bugging Andrew all the time and explaining Andrew what I see from your videos, guys. So it's like I've said, that there is this conservativeness of Japan, and then you guys go like, well, there is 400 LGBT bars in Tokyo. And I'm like, okay, here in Slovakia, especially Bratislava, capital city, we have one, right? So that's why I see that maybe Japan is conservative, but progressive, way progressive from this point of view. And I know that you did the Q&A about not same-sex marriage, but the couples can be together.
The
partnership.
System, yeah. So that's still not here in Slovakia. It is in some of the European Union countries, but not in Slovakia. And we are part of European Union, so we are like so behind. And I am active member of an LGBTI community, and also I'm in NGO helping to progress. And we just been active for 10 years, and we do see small steps, but still not enough, let's say.
Oh, wow.
So to turn this into question, do you see that if your company is somehow contributing to bring more awareness regarding diversity, inclusion, and stuff like that into the Tokyo inclusion or community?
My company does have a specific, it's part of the HR initiatives that they specifically push out things on diversity. It's just diversity in general, more like international and understanding, also to provide what they call in Japanese like a barrier-free environment, so people can, with all access and abilities, can access the building and stuff like that. So it's very diversity on a wide level. When we have Pride here, which is in May, my company usually sponsors the event sometimes. They've set up a booth. There's always a lot of like things, mail going around the company trying to encourage people to partake. And if they're gay, to like partake in the booth. If they're not gay, to at least go down and like show support. So they are actually really good with that stuff. You know.
I'll loop it back to the channel. Now maybe we mentioned before recording, maybe when we start recording, both of you work from 9 to 7, and you've mentioned some of your colleagues when you were still going to the office were looking at you like, "Whoa, you going so already home?" How do you create your time management? Or let me start with a couple of questions. First of all, how do you come up with the ideas of what you're going to shoot? What does the channel be? Why is it important for you to do the activism about this topic? And then how do you manage it? How?
I feel okay. I don't even know how, to be honest. I feel like we are very, Andrew and I are very, hard workers. Like we are very dedicated on the channel. So for the previous 1.5 years, we never, not uploading a video on the same time. We have a schedule. So we have a schedule that's always on Tuesday, Japan time, 6 p.m. that we made a rule. And I don't think any of us like broke the rule so far. Like we just keep going and keep going. I think one of the major reasons is once you stop, like you kind of give yourself more excuses to stop. And like if it happens once, it happened twice. So in the long term, it's not good for our channel because I think I do treat the channel kind of like a business as well. It's an extension of my life as well. So I treat it very seriously. So because we have this fire and dedication on the channel, we never stop uploading every single week. So that's one of the things. And time management, I think me and Andrew are doing it very differently. And sometimes, he may work on his pace. I do it differently. But I personally don't manage my time. I just sliding whatever I have to do during lunch, during dinner, like whenever I have time, I just put things in because I'm terrible at time management, actually. When I'm in the mood, I do more. When I'm not in the mood, I probably just watch Netflix. But the baseline is we always finish video before Tuesday, 6 p.m.
What about ideas?
Ideas. Okay, because every single week, if you have like A-tier ideas, like awesome ideas, that's difficult. We have fillers as well. Sometimes we have like, not so exciting ideas, but we do have those premium guests. For example, the recent video is about the Japanese Buddhism monk. He was big within the Japanese gay community, on Queer Eye, on TV, on Netflix. So if we have some guests like that, yes, of course, we're going to dedicate the time and set up like lots of preparation for those. But also like we have, blood type, those kind of like whatever content just as a filler. Sometimes they don't all have to be amazing. But surprisingly, sometimes without those kind of preparation, those videos do very well as well. So like YouTube is out of our control, like the algorithm, we don't know how they calculate things. So, it's a mixture. Sometimes we do have very well-crafted pieces, but sometimes we just kind of like, let it go, let's have fun. Let's just be random. And those work as well. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, how long does it take for you guys to do the subtitles? Because you have your subtitles English, Japanese, sometimes Chinese per video.
I think I've been doing English lately for a lot of them. And I would say 3 to 4 hours, depending on whether I'm translating as well. If I'm doing straight, sometimes like YouTube actually does, if it's English, it'll transcribe English, but it doesn't do it well, and it doesn't separate things, and it's not very good with grammar. So I spend a lot of time fixing it and rewriting a lot of stuff. And then when it's Japanese, in a way, it can be almost more like simpler because I can get a little bit more to the point. But I would say like I go through it 2 or 3 times and before I actually watch the final one. And I feel like it's probably 3 to 4 hours for English. And I think it's even longer for Japanese.
That's really long. And that's like for 15-minute video?
Yeah, probably like a 15-minute video. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually don't know because I'm really bad at just focusing on doing one thing. I'm always like doing other things. I'm like on Netflix watching shows, and together, like I probably translate one sentence and watch like a whole 40 minutes episode and just move on to the second sentence. But on our channel, of course, Andrew doesn't speak Chinese. So if there's a Chinese subtitle, it's always me. And for the previous 1 year, I have been doing Japanese subtitles as well. So Andrew, because he's a native speaker in English, right? He's much better with the vocabularies and, you know, just English in general. It doesn't make sense to let him to do Japanese and I'm doing English. And our majority of our audience are English speakers. So I think it's perfect. It's better to let him just to do English and I handle the Japanese. But also I'm not native in Japanese as well. So there are lots of like mistake on my subtitle. I'm not aiming for being perfect on it. I'm just being very honest. I don't double check. I just run through everything. And just like sometimes I watch the video again. If there's any noticeable mistake, I'm weighing and I just to fix it one more time. But usually I think if I be really focused, don't watch Netflix, it's probably 3 to 4 hours for me as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So do you actually dedicate all your free time to this channel, or do you still have some time to watch Netflix?
I do. I still do. Yeah. I just finished like the whole season of Selling Sunset. So, you know, I definitely have lots of time to binge watching shows. But my dating life is near to 0 right now because it's so tiring to spend my energy to talk to new people. Mm-hmm. You know, because before I'm doing the YouTube channel, I'm always like on my grinder, finding for my next target, my next victim, you know, to break their heart. But right now, I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered. And also my sex drive is extremely low right now. I'm always focused on the channel. I'm not sure too much. Sorry, TMI. Andrew, you can talk. I'm going to shut up.
No, it's okay.
It's okay. For me, yeah, I don't have any life anymore. Which is difficult. I think when something is structured, I really, really, really have to work really hard to make it happen. For instance, on the weekend, there was this really hot guy I've been talking to for like a couple of weeks on Grindr, and he's been trying to meet me. And I was like, I don't really know. I'm busy. I'm working. I'm doing all this stuff. And anyways, I decided to try really, really hard to meet him. And so I had to like do extra work on the editing and stuff like that to make sure I could get it done in time. And then sad story was that he stood me up. He never showed up. And so I'm sitting at this bar thinking, why did I put so much effort into this date? And I think before the channel, it wouldn't have been so bad because I have more spare time. But like when you don't have any spare time, it's like I'm in a position now where I want my spare time when I have it to be really good. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because everything is the channel. Yeah. So I don't have that much anymore, unfortunately. But hopefully, I mean, who knows? That might change in the future. We're just working really hard now. And I guess Corona has encouraged that because there's only so much we could do anyway.
Yeah.
No.
We have an Excel file where we put all of our ideas and then we discuss what we're going to shoot the next. So anyway.
Actually, we have an Excel file as well that we capture ideas. If it just comes in our mind, we just then make a note of it. And then when we have a meeting, we can structure when we're going to slot something in. I think another thing though as well though is a lot of our videos are with people. So a lot of our planning revolves around trying to get permission to film with them. So it can get not hard. It's just the planning process can be not so straightforward at times because we don't even know if we can film with this person. The Monk recent video we did, for instance, a friend, we were talking about it, and it was just like, well, I don't know if he's going to say yes. We don't know. So we can plan it, but there's only so far that we can take it. And he was kind enough to say yes, and it worked out and it was great. But with our planning, sometimes I think we've wanted to do certain things, go to certain places that we couldn't get access to and stuff like that. So there are a lot of things on our idea list that are kind of in red at the moment because we've just not been able to complete them. Yeah.
What was the most difficult, let's say, episode that you had to do? Maybe, did you have some challenges?
Every week is a struggle. Every week is a huge struggle. I feel like the editing part, right? Like, because video is kind of like we both want very high quality, but we are not also, obviously, we are not professional. We're learning at the same time. Probably like the end product is not matched to our, whatever our personal standard is, but we're trying our best to adding more flavors and adding more, accent into the video as much as possible. So every week to me, I just have to squeeze my creativity into the video and let them really sink. I really do 100% on every single video. But I would say something I think Andrew is doing much better than me is he is more organized. For example, like the Excel sheet, he's very like, managing what video come out what week. But like I'm more like a spontaneous person. I don't really care like when to push out what kind of content. And he's very proactively like reaching out to new clients and sell our channel and, connecting to different people. But for me, I'm like always come up with quirky and also see what is trending, those ideas. So we do have our own like strengths or stronger points. I think it mixed very well, even though it broke our friendship in some, like somehow. But no, we're not in bad blood. But our relationship shifted because we're more like running a business together, which we are in a more peaceful place right now. But I would say it's very different from us just being friends because there is a business element. There are lots of planning and responsibilities as well. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for all your sharing. I wish your channel to be super successful. And I love your videos, guys, because it gives me lots of inspiration. Then I can bring it to my company and then I'll talk about it. So really, really wish you good luck. Thank you very much being with us. For our listeners, 수고하셨습니다.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. It's so fun.
This podcast represents our own opinions, experience, and our own ideas. We do not represent any official statement from our employers, and this is not their official channel representing the company.